There you go.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. And yeah, I'll just start with introduction and say hi to everyone and start with a big thank you to Emma, Gosha, Hannah, all the Tekla Scotland guys for the reboot, very exciting reboot of the Tekla Scotland. And I hope some of you are going to the conference. Very exciting times with Tekla Scotland, and I'm sure it's a lot of huge amount of work. I'm sure it is. So very grateful that we are back. And Tekla Scotland is very much back. Um, yeah, if you want to, if you're thinking of going to the conference, I live in Glasgow. I'm a teacher at Glasgow Clyde College, and I can tell you that the weather in Glasgow in November is amazing. So I thoroughly recommend a trip to Glasgow at that time of year. Um, so yeah, I'll just introduce myself and I'll share my screen as well. Hang on, I have the power, I think. There we go. Yes, so yeah, as I said, I'm a teacher at Glasgow Clyde College, and I'm not going to be plugging my book too much, don't worry. But um, I'm usually happy if I get to double figures in a webinar, and we've got loads of people here, so I have to mention my books. I'm also the author of the Read and Write Everyday books for ESOL Literacy. I'll mention these a little bit, but it's not the main focus, obviously, of this session. Um, the main focus is, and with all the people here, looks like my deliberate clickbait of the title, I want my students to go away, possibly has worked. Um, Obviously, I don't mean this in a negative way. I'm talking about students progressing. And I imagine quite a lot of people here might identify with the feeling that I often have that students get stuck at a certain level and they seem to attend college, they seem to be very good students, but they might stay at the same level for 1 or 2 years or find it difficult to progress up the levels. And one thing I've noticed is that perhaps one thing that seems to separate those students who really push on and those who get stuck is this self-study. So I've come to a point this year where I'm thinking it is the key or one of the major keys to unlocking progress, really making that step. So that's the main focus today, self-study, homework and self-study, but self-directed study as well as homework from the teacher. Talk about both of them. And one thing that's really kind of brought this home for me is a student, Rasha, in my literacy class a couple of years ago, started at a very basic level, could very basic level reading and writing. Speaking was quite good, but very basic level of reading and writing. And yet, after a year or two, got to about I think 2 years. I think after 2 years, got to National Four, which for anyone who's here who doesn't teach in Scotland, that's intermediate, which is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And I remember speaking to him last year in college, saying, "How did you do that? That's amazing. How did you get to National Four?" And he worked very hard in college. His attendance is fantastic, but he said after college, I just do hours and hours of study, even like 5 hours or more. He goes to the library, he reads books, all the things we tell students to do. He goes and he does them, and I don't see many students go from such a low level to such a to get to National Four, and he's not finished. He's amazing. So that kind of brings it home. How do we, obviously not everyone can do this. Not everyone's the same as him. You might be an exception, but I think if everyone can, if all of our students can take some of this and add it to their learning, then it's going to make a huge difference. As Emma said, we're going to have a breakout room task, which I'll come to in a minute. The main outline then, yeah, this, as I said, this power of homework, self-study, and look at some tools. Okay, there's some new. I've been in kind of chatting about all this with my students, and they've shown me some new tools. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think the role of the teacher here, the role of the class, the role of our students is promotion among the group and persuasion, try and get everyone on board with this idea. So I think that's quite an interesting thing we can also focus on. Staging, as I'm just doing aims and outline. Breakout room task will be about 10 minutes. We'll do that in a minute. Feedback to the breakout room task. And I'll talk about my shift because I've made a bit of a shift this year in terms of how I approach this. So I'd like to focus on that as well after and give some of my tips for how to do well in this. And we're going to focus not just on, I think in the outline for the session, it mentioned mostly literacy, but I'm teaching intermediate this year as well, and National 5 upper intermediate. So we can, they have a lot in common anyway. So I think we'll focus on not just literacy level, but other levels as well. This is the breakout room task, and we're going to groups of 4 or 5. Okay. I am going to copy and paste this, I think, into the chat, or you can take a screenshot, I assume. Hold on a second. Hang on. Right. I'll bring that back again in case you want to take a screenshot. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if anyone knows if you can access the chat in the breakout room. You probably can. I don't know, Gosha and Emma. Do you know?
You can, David, but you would have to, you wouldn't be able to monitor in the breakout rooms.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay,
as in the participants can see the chat, but we can only see their breakout room chat if we go in, but they should still be able to see the main chat from here. Or like so they can take a screenshot before going into the breakout rooms.
Okay. So the questions are in the chat, or take a screenshot. And after the 10 minutes, we'll have some time for feedback. So 1 or 2 teachers from each room can, one teacher from a few rooms can give us some feedback, some answers to some of these questions. So perhaps bear that in mind while you're chatting. And I will pop to a few rooms to chat as well. Are we setting up the rooms?
Yeah, we're ready to go. Like Dave said, we'll bring you back automatically after the 10 minutes is up. But if you have any issues or you get dropped out, we can take you back to the breakout room. Don't worry about that. But yeah, the rooms are about to open.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Hold on. Right, so I was in a couple of rooms, and I find it fascinating, this discussion. I think a lot of people in the rooms, it seems to. Right, so if we can have a volunteer, raise your hand, I guess, or just unmute and speak. Number 1, some students go to college every day, they work hard. Do they have to, some students might say, I go to college every day. Why should I do this extra work?
Sure, I'm quite happy to volunteer if that's
Jeremy,
okay.
thank you.
So yeah, we all agreed that yeah, it doesn't really matter about the level of attendance. Self-study is always important. Like in the setting that most of us are in for ESOL, like the hours that they're given for English class is usually very sort of paltry to begin with. And even if it wasn't, it still wouldn't be enough because like to learn any sort of language to any reasonable degree, you need to be able to you need to practice it outside of class time. It's just a given, really, isn't it?
That was the kind of what I picked up in the rooms I went to, that it's pretty much a given. Yeah. Sorry, you were gonna say something else?
Yeah, sorry, just about I was gonna go to the second one. So self-study tools recommend for ESOL literacy beginners. Um, so I talked about one that I picked up from the NATECLA conference last year with Citizen Literacy,
Mm,
which is a really good online platform that kind of builds
yeah.
students up from letters to words to sentences, basically,
Hmm.
with reading and writing skills. Um, Intermediate
Should we
plus.
stay
Sorry,
on?
go
Sorry to
on.
interrupt, Jeremy. Maybe we should just stay
One at a
on.
time.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
stay on literacy and beginners.
Okay.
And after we do some feedback here, I'll go through mine as well. I've got some ideas here for these things. Anyone else put your hand up or unmute on? We'll stick with literacy and beginners. Anyone got some good tools?
If I can say, yeah, I like Wordwall and Kahoot.
Who is that? Sorry, I
It's
can't.
Sue. Sue.
Ooh. Oh, great. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I find Wordwall, you can very much sort of tailor it around your own students, or you can use some from the public. There's some brilliant stuff already there, prepared by people in the sort of the open site. So I do use that a lot, and I've just more recently started to use Kahoot a lot more, and you can assign.
Can you sorry to interrupt, can you, because I keep hearing about Wordwall, it's on my to-do list, but I've never used it. Can you, for anyone like me who's not used it, what is it exactly and what do you do with it?
So you it's free. You log in and you get access to a community. So you put in a search like ESOL Literacies or ESOL Beginners, and you get a range of activities done with a variety of different styles as well. So you might have a matching activity, you might have speaking activities, clothes, like putting something in a box, drag and drop, and it's a variety of different things. And
Do the students do it on their phones?
they can do it on their phones, yeah.
Yeah,
And
brilliant. Can you make your own? You can make your
yeah,
own as well, yeah?
yeah,
And
very
is that
easily.
all free then? All that's free?
That's free. You can pay. You can pay, and you can get access to a few more different ways of actually doing the same activity. So you can take, say, a vocab activity. You can then do the same. You can recycle by using the same words, but in lots of different ways. So you can do an anagram one, you can do a matching one, you can do a choose, A, B, C, or D. There's a variety of different ways. It's probably easier if I write a diss if you look at it, but it's certainly worth a look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on my list. I just haven't got around to it. I've done a lot of Kahoots. Do you want to explain Kahoot as well, just in case people don't know Kahoot?
Well, Kahoot I kind of got into because I used your books.
Oh, okay.
So it is another, I think, free. There is a free version
Free
of it.
and paid, yeah.
Yeah, and paid, variety of sort of different subscriptions. And again, it's just great for, well, you might be better at explaining it than I am, Dave, actually, because
Do you want me to explain it?
yeah.
Okay. So yes, it's another gaming platform, if you like, and you can create games for students to play. So something, as Sue said with Wordwall, it's probably easier just to go and look at it and try it, or look at a YouTube video explaining it. But you can get games that students can play on their phones. It's great fun. The students love it. You can have some sort of multiple choice games with a picture, and they have to choose the right word for the picture. So, and you can create your own. Bit like Wordwall, you can find some as well. Yeah, and you can, the nice thing with Kahoot, and I'm guessing it's the same with Wordwall, you can play a Kahoot in class, and then if you, and I can't remember exactly how you do this, but it's not difficult, you can change the settings so that the students can effectively play it again at home. as extra practice. It's not as much fun as playing it in class where you win the game and everyone gets very excited. But it's extra. It's an easy extra that you can just say to students, "Here's a link. Go and play this at home, and practice it again." So it's works very well. Yep.
There's also a relatively new thing, which is AI. So you can take a worksheet
Yeah.
and it will literally lift everything and turn it into a quiz for you. And then you can obviously edit if it's not quite what you want, but it comes up with the visuals and everything. I found that really useful for my int class, actually.
AI is what's come out of my sort of 2 or 3 weeks preparing for this and encouraging my students towards more self-study and speaking to them. What's coming back to me from them all the time is AI and tech, but especially AI. And I think I'll come on to it after we've had some more feedback to this, but AI seems to be the new, well, everyone knows, but with this area as well, it seems to be massive. Right, we could move on. Should we move on to the higher levels then? Sort of intermediate plus. Has anyone got any top tips, top tools? Intermediate plus. Sundus? Sorry, I don't may have to
No, that's okay.
pronounce that, sorry.
Sorry, I was just trying to find where my hand was. I wanted to add something for beginners.
Go for it. Go ahead.
That sometimes I've found that the beginner learners, it's hard for them to have a web link because they don't have an email address or they don't have a mobile.
Yeah.
So what I was discussing in my group is I actually create QR codes for them and put them on a sheet of paper and give it to them as a self-study. So I create 2 or 3 QR codes, print them, give it to the ladies or my students and ask them to do it during their self-study time. And put the marks, because in word wall you can get a score. So I actually say, write the score down, how much did you achieve at the end. I use word wall a lot more. Another thing I've said is even during the class I use QR codes as extension activities. So I would have a list of speaking activities with QR codes, just the QR code with the topic like speaking, reading activity, shopping, and they can pick it and they can do the reading while they're waiting for the low level learners to complete the work. So I think any web link can be created into a QR code just by right clicking and creating a QR code and pasting it on Word documents. Very easy and quick.
So, no, I didn't know that. So, because I have created QR codes, but I think I used Adobe. It was free. But you're saying you don't need to do that, no? You can just right click.
No. You just go to the website or the web link you want to give to the learners, and you just right click.
Okay.
With your mouse, and it will give.
That one will depend on what browser you're using. It won't work with all browsers. Okay. I think that's like Google Chrome and I think maybe Firefox.
Yeah. Okay.
Didn't know that.
Maybe.
That's
but
a great tip.
I've used it this way because I thought it's very easy. I don't have to add anywhere. I don't have to take any subscription or anything to create QR codes, and I've created them to do that.
Students seem to have very quickly got the whole idea of QR codes. All my students, as soon as they see a QR code, they're straight on it. So this makes it much easier for them, doesn't it? It's a good idea. Yeah, good one. In terms of sharing links, we create, for example, a team, but it obviously depends. As you were saying, some of your students might not have smartphones, so nearly every year mine seem to have a smartphone, all of them. I don't know if I'm lucky in that way, or so in that case we have a team. We can have a team and we can share links. So I think that makes your life a lot easier as a teacher. I don't know if anyone else has got any other ideas for sharing links. That's probably the best way, I think. We'll guess from the silence that's the best way. Does anyone want to add any other beginner or literacy? Maybe I moved on a bit too fast. Ideas? I can't see all the hands. I don't know if Emma and Gosha can. Might be easier just to unmute and speak if anyone's got any more.
I personally use WordWall and Kahoot a lot as well in class, but also to give to students to do again, or as a good recap at the end of a lesson. It's quite nice to do that as a review to see what they've understood, what they've learned during the lesson. But we also, in our group, we talked about videos where they're given a listening task with questions to do. It's an English video by British Council. And there's one on YouTube that was mentioned called 10 Easy Words.
10 easy
for
words.
lower level students. I've not used that myself, but it was mentioned within our breakout group. So I'm going to look out for it.
What was the other one you just mentioned?
So I think it was called English Videos by British Council Resources.
Oh yeah, okay. That's got several. That's got most levels. I
listening
think,
tasks, and then they're given different activities to do. I think students do like to do those at home, where they actually listen to something, but then they actually have to do an activity as a follow-on from that.
Yeah. With the word wall, by the way, if you give word wall for homework, is it just the case everyone's going to have this word wall, they go home, they practice it, and that's the end of it? Or is there some way, is there some sort of follow-up the next day? Is there something you do with them the next day? Or
it depends. Sometimes I will then start the lesson with going through it just to check that what they've learned, or something like that. Yeah, it just depends, because it's nice because you can actually use it as a whole class activity, or you can send the link so they can do it individually on their phones within the class or at home. It's really versatile, which is one of the good things about that, and Kahoot as well. That
it looks great, WordWall. It's just lack of time. I haven't had time to get into it, so it's on my list.
You just type in what you want to practice. So if it's present simple, or if it's clothing vocabulary or something, you just type that in, and then it gives you a selection, and then you just choose what would be suitable, and you can put it in the level that you like. So I
just need to get stuck in, I think, don't I? Yeah, that's my takeaway. I think I'll get stuck into that, definitely. Brilliant, thank you. That's great. Shall we move to intermediate plus, sort of higher, towards the higher levels? Anyone, just unmute if you've got a good tip, study tool. Anyone got a tip? Good tool, intermediate plus.
I really like something that that Debbie said in our group, to be honest, and it's not really a tool per se, but it's more using the tool of the people around you. So she was just saying that whenever people are encouraging students, whenever on like the bus or the train or something like that, like instead of sitting there like I normally would, to be honest, with my headphones on, it said encourage them just to take off their headphones and just listen to the conversation that's happening around them. And she presented it as like, you can pretend like you're spying on the people around you if you really want, which obviously, take as far as you want to take it. But I really like the idea of that, of just encouraging them just to use what's already there around them. I think that's something that people need to be reminded of sometimes.
No, I love it. Yeah, no, I've said that to my students. The bus, on the bus is a great opportunity. You're surrounded by language, and you can read on the bus as well. There's plenty to read, but definitely listen to people. What did they say? Try and work out what they said. Try and listen, practice your listening. Yeah, definitely. I love it. That's a great idea. Good. Anyone else got any? Yeah, doesn't have to just be tools or any particular resources. It could be ideas like that. Yeah, because
I'd just like to remind everybody about the BBC Learning English Online, the 6 minutes. So you can do 6-minute grammar, 6-minute punctuation, and you can choose what level you recommend for your students. So there's some slightly easier, some a bit more difficult. And I'm a big fan of Grammar with Georgie, which I was talking about with my group in the breakout room. Georgie's a superstar. She's really positive. She wears loads of different outfits, one for each verb tense. She has about 10 or 12 different short videos. But really it's a listening exercise. So I try to recommend it to my students that they listen while they're doing something else. So, when they're on the tram, they listen, or when they're washing up, they listen. But to be honest, I don't know whether they do or they don't, but that's my tip.
But no, I love it. The podcasts are amazing. You know, I think I'll talk more about podcasts in a minute. I've had my own sort of journey in terms of listening while doing something else, because I listen to a lot of podcasts in Spanish, and because I'm very busy, I think to myself, I'll listen to a podcast while I'm washing up, while I'm doing this, while I'm doing that. And I got to a stage where I realized I wasn't properly paying attention to them. So I'd sort of understand, and there was still some use to it, but I'd listen to a little bit and I'd understand, then I'd kind of zone out, then I'd go back to it. And I listened to another podcast recently by an English teacher, actually, and he was saying one of the keys to improving in terms of reaching a higher level is really paying attention, which goes back a little bit to what Jeremy was saying, paying attention on the bus, you know, pay attention to what people are saying. Don't just be passive, actually pay attention. And I've tried to shift with my own idea with listening to the podcasts to actually sit down with a paper and pen, listen, make notes, and get much more out of it. And I think for students as well. So I'm not saying not to multitask, listen and multitask. But I'm just wondering if maybe not for, this isn't for every student, but you know, for some students that paying attention is important. But yeah, definitely I'll come back to podcasts. Yeah. Anyone else got an intermediate or higher tip?
I think there's the obvious, you know, listening to music and understanding the lyrics. I mean, it's an old trick that I learned English like that, and I still remember which song I learned a certain word from. And then there's watching series with English subtitles on, I think, as well.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, subtitles are interesting. Yeah, you're saying with English subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Why not?
So you hear...
why have you checked? Because there are different options, aren't there? You could have no subtitles, you could have subtitles in the student's language, or
I mean, yeah, if you can manage without subtitles, fantastic, but that's pretty hard, I would say.
Yeah.
And I don't know, well, it depends what you watch, right? But if you watch certain series that you might be into, you might not. I've watched things with native speakers who have said to me, "Oh, Kasia, I need the subtitles on." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks for saying that." Yeah. But I think the English subtitles will, so you hear and you read the same thing, and you're not translating in your head all the time and checking the subtitle. You know, it's and I think if the subtitles are in in whatever other language you will be using, then you might just you just read in that language and you can't really focus on what you're hearing as much, if you know what I mean. So it's interesting what you said about the podcast, because I always recommend to people, you know, just listen. Just have it in the background. I learned Spanish like that as well. And one day I turned around, I was ironing, and I went, "Oh, I just understood what that woman said on the news." And it might be not the most effective way, but I think for all the busy people we've mentioned, people with kids, you know, the commute, it can be a very effective way, and you get used to the melody and the pronunciation. One program I recommend in Scotland is BBC Radio Scotland in the morning. There's a phone in and you get accents from all over the place, and it's brilliant because you get people from Dundee and then Aberfeldy and then somebody from Aberdeen and Orkney in the one program, and it's brilliant for that as well.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world you'd probably listen whilst you're, you know, doing the washing up, but also sit down sometimes and pay attention. I'm not saying it's not of use, you know. I think it has helped me as well, to be fair. You know, you're still getting more and more exposure, aren't you? You're getting used to, you know, listening all the time. Right, should we move on to the last question, and then I'll go through my tips. Anyone got any tips for encouraging students? Yeah, how can we sell this whole idea to them?
Can I say something again?
Yeah, go for it.
I always compare it to the gym, because I teach a lot of young
people in the silent system. Many of them go to the gym, and it's a very good analogy. It's like, you know, you just have to go every day if you want to be serious about it. And all the things about frequency, you know, I mean, the gym is great because you can explain it really easily to people with very, very low level. And that
everyone gets that,
yeah, and it's better to exercise a little bit every day than once a week.
Yes, I was just thinking
3
that,
hours.
Yeah.
So you'll be fitter if you do that than if you just, you know, work really hard on Saturday. So that kind of the wee 5-minute like activities that you can do on the go.
I love it. That's a great idea. I like that. I'm making a lot of notes here. Brilliant. No hands up, I don't think. So I'll move on, I think. Put your hand up if you have any questions, put your hand up or put them in the chat. And at some point we'll do a sort of Q&A. Perhaps I will go through so that leads us on to mindset, really. So I think the first thing I focused on this year is really getting to grips with this mindset, you know, getting students on board that this is important. I like the gym one. I like the analogy there about the gym. That's brilliant. Linking it to goals, obviously, is important. Do you want to change level? Do you want to get a job? What's your goal? Obviously, if you don't put in the work at home, if you've got a goal like that, then it's not going to be, it's going to be very difficult to achieve. So I've had some class discussions with both I'm teaching literacy and the ESOL Literacy and upper intermediate this year. So we've a similar sort of strategy, but obviously very different in terms of the level of the complexity of the whole discussions. But have a class discussion. So with my literacy group, you go to college and their attendance is very good. You know, you go to college, is it enough? Basically asking them, is that enough? You know, can you get to a good level if you only go to college? And they seem pretty much on board. You know, now we need to do homework. Homework's really good. They seem very happy with it. Take the points people have made about how much time people have. You know, that is obviously massive. Some people, like Rasha, I mentioned, have much more time. But even the students who are busy in my class, they're still doing some homework. You know, it also depends on your goal. You know, so I've taught some students whose goal is not to get to intermediate. They just want to improve a little, to manage, to cope in the UK, to help their kids, or to get by, really, and that's enough. You know, they're not thinking of intermediate. So it depends on your goal. Rasha's goals, obviously, very high. And yeah, just habit. You know, every day we're doing homework. Make it, I think, in every class, make it a habit. Set some homework. The next class, check homework. Is a great way to finish and end classes. I think get into that habit every day. So in terms of the intermediate higher, I've started with a discussion in groups, just with these questions, just to kind of to test the water, but also to try and persuade them that this is hugely important. So number 2 is kind of in line with what we were saying about some people being busier than others. But even the busy ones, when we got to question 2, also said, no, I'm busy, but I've signed up to college. You know, I've come to college, so that means I still have to do some homework. You know, they're not making excuses, and they're going to get the homework done. I think number 3 has been quite effective. Plan when and where. I think a lot of people relate to this here as well. You know, if you make a goal, if you set yourself a goal, you want to go to the gym, you need to, it's not just going to happen. You've got to get organized. You've got to plan it. Are you going to do homework and self-study straight after class? You know, when have you got time? Everyone's different. Is it when the kids go to bed? So that was quite interesting. You know, some of them, you could see from that discussion, some of them thought, oh yeah, I need to actually, you know, you can't just wait until 10 o'clock at night and think, oh, when am I going to do homework? You know, try and get organized. And these 3 questions as well. Number 6, I think, is quite interesting as well, because especially if you're busy, you know, you've got all these areas of English: reading, speaking, writing, listening. if you don't have hours and hours of time, prioritize, So that was quite interesting in our Nat 5 class, that the students said, oh yeah, okay, I'm really good at speaking, I'm really good at, my vocabulary is good, my writing isn't very good, so that makes sense, spend more time on the writing. So I think that discussion's worked quite well, and it kind of got us off to a good start with this whole focus. I'm going to talk about literacy, ESOL literacy, because I've been on a mission with this for some time, and then I'll go on to intermediate. And I'm going to start with the sort of more simple ideas and go on to the more complex ones, but don't overlook the simple ones, because I remember one day saying to my students, they've all got notebooks that they're writing in. And I remember saying to them once, do you read your notebook at home at night? And some of them looked at me like they genuinely hadn't thought of that. So don't overlook the sort of simple ideas, I think. Read your notebook again, if you've got a student's book, read your student's book. Or, even everyone knows, I think, look, say, cover, to practice spelling. You've got words you've learned today in class, write them again, cover, write them again. They can do that at home on a single word. If they've written a text in class, they can cover that and write it again, and you can set that as homework. So anyway, yeah, that's good. It's not enough, but it's definitely, don't overlook that. Or just giving them a list of words. Here are 10 words we've learned today. Spell them in class. We'll do a quick dictation tomorrow. I tried that a few years ago, and I think because I had quite a mixed level, it didn't work very well, and I think the weaker ones really struggled with it. But I'm gonna try it again, and perhaps have the weaker ones just write the first letter, or do it in pairs perhaps, and help each other. Try and make it so it's not like not like a scary exam. But I think it's worth trying again. But that was what I was doing a few years ago. Things like that. I realized I needed more, so we went to the library. We're very lucky in college. We've got a library, and we can order in graded readers. So it has to be obviously something very simple for literacy. So something like this, very, very simple graded reader. Even then, it was tricky, because the idea is obviously students take this home, they read it, and then they come and get another one. But if you're really low level and you can't read it, what do you do? So I've had some ideas. Sometimes we go to the library and we spend a bit of time with me helping them a little bit. I tried making videos of the text. We went to the library only the other day, and they were showing me Google Translate. Has anyone seen what they do? I was new to this, really, but a lot of the students are using it. Does anyone know what I'm getting at here? Have you seen the Google Translate? So what they do, it's on their phone, it's an app, and they can just sort of open the app and point it at the text, and it can translate it into their language, and they can read it. It can read it for them aloud as well, in their language and in English. The problem, and we'll come on to more technology in a minute, but the problem I've got with it is if they just go directly to Google Translate, which a lot of them do, rather than trying to read it first. So I think I'm going to get them in class next week and with these books, and say to them, you've got to try and read it first. And if you do use Google Translate and it reads it aloud for you, fantastic. But then after it has done that, turn Google Translate off and read it again. There's no point just listening to Google Translate translating and not reading. I don't know if anyone's got any experience of this or any tips.
Sorry, I had that problem. I teach a low, my learners are beginners, ESOL learners, and I teach them literacy, and I had that problem with Google Translate, and I ended up, they cannot use their phone because that's the problem. But I found that if we use Microsoft Word, there's an option where it reads out loud the text. And they can listen to that. They can choose the voice that would do that. And then they can use Google Translate, only one word per paragraph or something like that, a word that they really don't know, that they've never seen before. Only one.
Limit the use.
Yeah, so they need to understand, they need to make an effort to use the context to understand what they're doing, because the first 5 lessons I learned about Google Translate because I didn't know that existed, and I was fascinated by that. But there was no point in having a class there. They just could just do it at home. So
this is the sorry to interrupt. This is the problem I have with it, though. As you've hit the nail on the head, that will they make the effort also to read for themselves? You know, if they actually are sounding out letters, trying to properly read it, develop their reading, using the technology a little bit, then great. And that's where perhaps we come in, I think, because then if the teacher can get them in class with these books, with the phones, and train them, I'm just wondering, you know, so we show them, use the translate, learn, you know, that will help you with some words, you'll understand it better, but then put the phone away and read it for yourself. Yeah.
Well, what I try to do is asking them to bring letters from home, like a GP letter, the council letter, the TV license, anything they get throughout the door, and try to be. It's a bit of a shock sometimes. I try to read it without the translator because they know what it is. They know the GP name, they know the address, they know the postcode. So they have some information about that. And so they just don't read about someone's day, anybody else's life. Just they can relate to that piece of information. And now they feel more confident reading text that they get from the NHS or from their GP, because they get less scared to face a new text, so to speak. Some of them it works fantastically because some work as chef in a restaurant, so they need to read recipes all the time. For others, it's still a struggle 2 years into it. But I try to relate it to the everyday life, more or less. Not that successfully sometimes, to be honest.
I mean, it depends on the function, doesn't it? So
exactly,
if you've got a letter and it seems like an official important letter, I would use Google. If it was in Arabic, I would use Google Translate to understand that.
Well, I'm not English, so when I get a letter from the Home Office, obviously go and try to be very sure what I'm reading. So yes, I understand that feeling, but there's an effort that they need to make, at least.
Yeah.
And also, I try to be a bit more realistic, maybe not the whole letter, but the first paragraph, and maybe in 2 weeks' time, the second paragraph, and so on.
Yeah. Even so, you know, with the work we do in class with students, it's bound to help them in some way with something like that letter, isn't it? And having that link with college and the teachers' help. So the technology is getting, there's more and more coming on technology, definitely, because it's running away fast. I'll come back to obviously things like Google Translate and AI. So my next step was that I realized I needed to give them worksheets. I wanted to give them more work to take home. So I went away and I found worksheets, and quite often, because they're obviously, because it's a very low level and the understanding was such a low level, and they weren't used to worksheets. You know, I'd find a beginner worksheet for them linked to work we'd done in class, maybe to the vocabulary, but it was way too difficult. You know, I couldn't handle it. It was way too difficult. So I mentioned the book I've written earlier, which I think some people know, the Read and Write Everyday Students book. I added to it a workbook. Okay, so there's a workbook now as well with homework tasks. It's not solved the problem, but it's helped, I think, because now I'll give you some examples in a minute. It's got very simple tasks, and the tasks are linked to work they do in class. This is going away from the technology. This is just paper and pencil. I'm quite traditional, but the students like it as well. And something like a word search or a letter, a word snake, I think it's called, where there's no space, or reorder the words. And because it's linked to work we do in class, so it's super. You know, they don't get lost with it. You know, it's language they've seen, it's context they've already seen, and very simple tasks. So what I quite like here is I can finish each class with setting homework, and we've got this habit where we check it the next day. Talking of, like, say, a team or something like that, I make a video at the end of each class. I'll show you an example of it in a minute. I'll just use my phone, make a quick video and share it with them. And because they've all got this book, then even if they're absent, they can watch the video and it's very clear what to do. I just model a few of the tasks. If I can, I'll try and share my screen for the video. Where is it? 1 second. Hello, how are you? I have homework. Look, in the blue book, go to page 33. Match 1. Look. 1. Match. Okay. 34. Write the number. 0, 1. Won't play the whole video, but they really like that. You know, if I find that if I send the video, I tend to get much more success in terms of students doing the homework. Sometimes I forget, and next day, a teacher, no video, no homework. You know, they seems to be part of the deal that I make the video. Hang on. So yeah, so make the video, and then get back to my PowerPoint. Yeah. The routine I've got is we check it in pairs, and at the start of each class. Yeah, and the students are used to this routine. They seem to quite like it. Start of each class in pairs, check in class, same answers or different answers, check together. I whiz round, and my main aim here is just to check they've done it. Really, I just want to see they've done it, and if they know I'm coming to check they've done it, then that, I think, makes it more of a guarantee. There's more of a guarantee that they're actually going to do the homework. So I whiz round. I might underline a few errors for them to correct, but mostly I'm just checking they've done it, and I tick. We might tick the page, which they love. You know, we might check some of it as a class, but quite often, because they're quite simple tasks. You know, have you done the word search? You don't need to check it as a group. I just tick the page, whiz round, check they've all done it, and it's a nice little routine that's working quite well. What I found though is, you know, I've got, I might give them some pages from the book, and it is useful, you know, and certainly if you've got busy students who've only got 10, 15, 20 minutes, they can probably do most, if not all, of that homework in that time, which is useful. But as we were saying, you know, if you really want to get to the next level, you've got to be doing more than that to get from literacies up to beginner, up to elementary. So I feel like I need to give them more. So I'm looking for tools that they can use, kind of self-directed, if you like. So I'm looking at tech. Nobody's mentioned, I should show these. The Tecla Scotland digibooks are absolutely amazing. I think I have got, hang on. Where is it? Hang on. I might, because of time, I might not share. I don't know, Emma, how do we share links and that sort of thing? Is there a way after the webinar to share links?
Yeah, what we're actually, because there's been lots of good suggestions come through in the chat. So we're going to save the chat and collate all the different links anyhow. So when we share the recording, we'll share the list of links. So I think a couple of people have already put the link to our books, which is great. Wow, but yeah.
So the digibooks are absolutely brilliant, because you, just to explain quickly what they are, you've got a very simple book with text, and they can listen to it as well. So there's the audio, a little bit like with the Google Translate. I say to them, you know, listen the first time, read and listen. Then the second time, don't listen and read it, because you want to be reading independently without that audio. So, but the audio sets them up. It's like having Google Translate, really. And the books are fantastic. They're really good. So I'm not just saying that because Natecla Scotland is in the webinar. They genuinely are. So definitely, yeah, the digibooks are fantastic. And then some apps that have already been mentioned, such as Citizen Literacy, some of these others you might know, Bridges project, it's really good. And I've tried to find apps that are accessible, you know, because the problem I've had is that students, you give them these ideas for tech and their tech skills aren't so good often, you know, they can't manage it. So tried to find tech that they can get around. In saying that, they still need more help. We've talked about Google Translate. YouTube I'll come on to as well. The problem I've had with YouTube, I don't know if anyone's got anything to add to this, but they all love YouTube, they all know YouTube. When you actually ask them, what do you watch on YouTube? Often it's someone from their country, which is great. I mean, oh, brilliant, that's fantastic, whose English is fantastic, but it's way too difficult. It's like somebody from their country who's pitching at upper intermediate or advanced, and they think they're learning from it. I didn't know that they're not, you know, it's just way above their level. So I've got a possible solution for that, which I'll come on to. But the main thing is, and this is true for all the levels, I think, is that we need training, I think, in class. So to actually have a session, and not in the past, I've made the mistake of just having a quick 10 minutes. It's got to be quite a long session where you actually sit down and show them these apps. If you've got an interactive whiteboard and you can show on the whiteboard, fantastic. If not, you can get the student. A lot of students nowadays are getting quite good with smartphones and they're good at helping each other. So they can help each other. Teacher can help to download the app, to find your way around the app. Have a decent amount of time on it so they know how to do it. So they know how to use it when they go home, because that's the idea. Even like take a video of somebody doing it, you know. But I'm trying to say, don't rush it, you know, spend time in class helping them out with all these things. And then they're much more likely to do it at home, I think. And stress, you know, you need to be doing this at home. Go home and do this. And as we've said, you can send links to these things. And I did this last summer, just before the summer holiday last year. I was thinking I need to give them a decent amount of work to take home, to do at home. So I created a worksheet. I've added this to the students' book, but I've got a blog as well. We're collating links, so I guess I can give this link to Emma. On my blog, you can access this, and I'll put other worksheets. I've got another worksheet which I'll put on the blog. And we looked in class, we discussed all these ideas. What do you do at home? Do you have, some of them mentioned pals they speak with, or family members that help them? TV, videos, all these things. Going back to an idea that was mentioned earlier, the QR codes. So we've got QR codes to get them to Natecla Scotland's digibooks and Bridges and all these things. And moving on to what I've also been working on, and which I'm hoping will be a game changer for them. I'm building a YouTube channel. It's not finished, but I think I finished about 5 units. There are 14 units in the book. So the idea with this is that with each lesson in the book, whether it's reading, writing, phonics, numbers, letter formation, whatever it is, there's a video to go with it, and I send them a link to the video. The videos I try and keep them interactive. I try to get them actually practicing during the video. So in contrast to the videos that I've seen them watching, it's very much pitched at their level, and because it's linked to the book, it's less likely that they'll get lost when they're doing it. Feedback from them, although they probably would say this anyway because they want to be nice to their teacher, but they seem positive about it. So it's called My Homework Today. So there's a QR code there you can see, and I think it's going to give them a lot more, because if for each unit there's a couple of hours, it's not just 5 minutes. There's a couple of hours there, and they can watch the videos again and again, and I think hopefully it will be value for them. Right, moving on to Nat 4. With obviously the high levels, there are way more possibilities. I'm not going to go through because a lot of great ideas have come out with BBC 6-Minute English and One Stop English and all these podcasts and different English File Online's got loads of exercises, and the Headway Online's got loads of exercises and all this. I'm not going to go through like a load of websites because I think if anyone goes online and does a search, what are the best websites to help students practice their reading online, you'll find millions. If you spend 10-15 minutes, you'll find a load of them. So I'm more here going to focus on what I've been doing in terms of the process with students to get them actually using these, because I think a lot of the students do actually know about these things as well, and we discuss them in class obviously, but I think a lot of this is more about mindset and getting organized with it. So kind of touched on this a little bit previously, that in the past I've just kind of had quite a quick focus on this in week 1. Here are loads of things you could do. Why don't you go away and do them? It's a bit, I don't know, it just felt like very quick, and the students who are already doing it will go away and do it. The students who aren't doing it won't do it, and it didn't really go anywhere. So I'm thinking, this is important. I should be spending more time on this. So rather than just hear a load of ideas, get on with it, I've made it more systematic, and I've produced a worksheet which we can share. And in the worksheet basically gives lots of possible ways to practice reading, writing, listening, speaking. And there's a discussion in class, which are your favorites? And I'll quickly show you actually the worksheet, hang on, because it wouldn't take that long. 1 second. Yeah, hold on. Right, so, and again, you don't have to, I don't have to take notes because we'll just share this, but it's things like with writing a diary, we've been trying that, writing messages, AI stuff. And I didn't have AI in this worksheet, but they mentioned it so much and we've been talking about it a lot. So kind of uncomfortable with it, but the students are using it. A lot of the students are already using it. Yeah. So I didn't know you could do this. You can write something and upload it to AI, and AI will correct it. I experimented with this with my Spanish, and I gave it to AI, and I gave it to my human teacher, and my human teacher was much better. So humans are still winning for now. But the AI one was good, and it took 10 seconds, it was super fast, and it was pretty good. So you can see why students are using it. Things like spelling, obviously. So with listening, we've spent a lot of time on podcasts, which I'll talk about in a minute. And you could list all the podcasts. We've talked about BBC, and British Council's got a good podcast. If you go onto an app and search Learn English Podcast Intermediate, you just find so many. So what I've been trying to say, what I want them to get to is that level where they just go to take the initiative, go to a podcast app and search and find a podcast. Okay. But a little bit like with the literacies, what I've been doing is focusing area by area. I'll go back to hang on. Going kind of area by area and having a really good focus on each thing. That's it. And these were I'll come back to that in a minute. So these are some of the tips students had. Speak to yourself, which I quite like. I do that in Spanish. Football teams, jobs, AI. Yeah. So yeah, what I've been trying to do is choose one area. So for example, we've spent the last week or two on listening, and really focus on it and really dive into it with students. So in my National 5 class, for example, we were in class, everyone downloaded a podcast app. We all searched for podcasts. Then I give them homework, and I'm hoping eventually they'll be doing this by themselves, but I've given them homework. I give them a specific podcast to listen to. At the moment, we're just doing podcasts for students, but I'm going to move on to native speaker podcasts for Nat 5 because they're very good, very strong. And I found a really good podcast, for example, on culture shock. So they were very interested in it. Listen to it for homework. It's Easy English, it was called it, but it wasn't easy. It was Nat 5. Listen to it for homework. Give it a very simple task. Yeah, what are the main points, and what was the most interesting point, and just note down some new vocabulary for you. Guess the spelling. And the students came back. They found there were some words they weren't sure about. We discussed it as a class, and I'm trying to get into this habit of giving them some sort of homework that's not necessarily, or in addition to perhaps worksheets from English File, which we use, more directed towards getting them to be independent and doing this hopefully at some point during the year, just doing this by yourself, but I'm sort of training them and building the habit of doing it, because I don't think it's in the past just kind of happened because in week 1 I've said go away and do this, and it seems to be working. They seem quite on board. They seem quite excited by it. As I said, we do lots of prep in class, like downloading apps and that sort of thing, and we're doing it as homework. We're checking it the next day. It's going well. They seem to be enjoying it. I did a similar thing with Nat 4 for reading. I gave them a one-stop English reading to do. We've done a vocab thing with flashcards. And we check it in class. And I'm trying to set them up, trying to sort of push them towards becoming independent eventually one day. And we've done, as I said, we've done flashcards. We've done it with reading, writing. That's the new approach then, really. Yeah, set this as homework, check homework, create habits. Okay. I think that's me. There are lots of chat posts. I don't think we're going to go through all 72. But thank you very much for. I know it's late at night, so thank you very much for staying the whole time.
Dave, thank you very much. A lot of the posts are actually fantastically people sharing the resources they use and websites they use. So we'll definitely collate that because
I've written
there's
there's
a lot of new ideas as well. So that's fabulous to see. One question that came up a couple of times was about checking homework, how to organize it, how to integrate it in the lessons, whether it works if some students haven't done the homework. What have you found that works for you? Is it the routine of doing it or changing the way that you set the tasks?
My routine is to set it end of class. Towards the beginning of the next class, check in pairs, keep it collaborative, student-centered, and students are then peer teaching. They're helping each other to check the homework. Then we check it as a group, and quite often from the homework task, the students are not only getting the answers to the task, but nearly always something else comes out of that. Perhaps it's a grammar point and they didn't quite get that grammar point and we need to do some more work on it. So it kind of leads on to something as well. I know some teachers that collect and mark homework. Personally, I only do that. It's not because I'm lazy. I only do it with writing. If we do some writing in class, you can't check that as a group. So I take that in and I mark that. But I find with worksheets they're doing at home, that system works really well. In terms of students who haven't done it, that does seem to happen. But I think if you get into this habit of homework every day, check the answers, especially if you've got a way of sharing, like an email group, if it's higher level, sharing the homework with them so nobody forgets to do it, and getting into that routine. Once they know there's the routine, if I were a student, I wouldn't want to go to the next class having not done the homework. Do you know what I mean? Because you feel like you're missing out a bit and you're confused what's going on, what's everyone else doing. So I think that's what I don't know. Has anyone else got any other ideas?
No, guys, feel free to share. I certainly felt that the routine helps. I'm doing a bit of spelling routine with my learners, and we do it every day. So there's no escaping it, like you're saying. So I think that helps. They just know that it becomes sort of a part of the lesson, really, that they have to go in and do it. I think, and one question was checking it. So that's what people said. If we just give the tasks or the ideas or the resources, do we just leave it? But I think you answered that question today's webinar, that you don't just leave it, that you do a lot of training and you incorporate this in your lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is working much better the way I've started doing it this year, giving them a little task for homework. With the Nat 4, Nat 5s, I've started with podcasts for learners. I'm going to move. The Nat 5 class is really good, so I think for that level, I'm going to move on to, say, a podcast from BBC Sounds and do the same thing. Because, you know, eventually, if you want to get from, say, upper to advanced, you've got to start pushing yourself, you know. So, and you've got to be doing that yourself eventually. So hopefully it's going to push them towards that.
Do you find you still have to train that level at using resources?
Yeah. It's a mixture, you know. Some of them are really far ahead. There's a woman in my Nat 5 she was leveled as a beginner last year, and then she was moved to elementary, so she was probably wrongly leveled at beginner, but even so, she's gone from elementary to Nat 5, and she said she went on to AI and said, can you write me a learning sort of syllabus for the year to help me improve my level? And she's gone from that level to National 5. It's amazing. And she's using it to correct writing. You can speak to these AIs, and it's not as good as a human, but it's it's something. If you're struggling to get speaking practice, it is something. And she's using every tool she can. She's gone way up the levels. So, but at the same time, there are some students in that class who have one or two, I think, tools that they rely on and that work. Perhaps, for example, that their speaking levels become very good because they're very chatty, they're very sociable, they've joined football teams, they've got friends, they've got Scottish friends, they've got, you know, lots of ways of speaking, but they're not using self-study tools to practice reading and writing, and that's not so good. So, and they don't know how to do that. So I think it's good for all of them that we're doing it with this kind of process of, let's have a rehearsal, if you like, in class and get to know what we're doing in class, really understand it, and then you go home and do it, and then we'll keep it going that way.
I quite like Kasha's comment about learning English through songs. I did the same.
Yeah, I forgot to put songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I did it. Yeah. But I forgot to put songs on my worksheet. I'm going to add that. Yeah.
Had an interesting conversation recently with a student that she said, oh, I also did that. You know, I listened to these songs, but it never helped me with my English. And I said to her, well, what did you do after listening? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, did you write down some words? Did you try to use them? Did you look them up? Did you try to sing along? And she just looked at me blankly, said, no. I thought, well, maybe that's why you didn't see the difference, because you actually have to do something with all these resources.
It's the idea of being proactive, isn't it? Pay attention, be proactive, notice the language rather than just let it wash over you. Yeah.
Just watch out for some grammar in some songs. It's not to be taught. Watch out for Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
That's like.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely. But it is another great way to learn, definitely. Yeah, especially nowadays with the internet, it's very easy to get hold of lyrics, or on YouTube you can sing along with the lyrics. It's brilliant. You know, practice your pronunciation. Yeah, definitely.
Guys, do we have any more questions, comments? Yeah.
So most of the 74 is recommendations for links and that sort of thing, and we'll make it into some sort of
absolutely
document.
And if you have any more you'd like to add, then
I'll add some more.
As well. Yeah.
Well, that'd be a mega document. Yeah.
There was a chat about using WordWall, about the fact that you are limited in how many resources you can create if you use it for free. But if you don't want to create resources, you can just explore what other people created. And I think, as Sue mentioned, you can just switch between different formats. So if you find one subject that's interesting, but you don't like the you know, the activity, you can change to another activity, and it will do it for you.
I've heard that there's loads on there. You know, if you don't create something, there's loads that you can find.
Yeah,
you don't have to create anything.
You don't,
so
not
much.
really, no.
Yeah. In terms of the worksheets that I showed earlier, I'm going to put them on my blog. So I think you can see my website
We can
there.
share your
ESOL
blog,
Books,
definitely. Yeah.
esolbooks.com, and there's a blog, and you can download them as PDFs. So the intermediate one, which works for Nat 5 as well, to be honest, and that same one that I showed you for literacies. I'll put those both on the blog. Is that us then, or is there any more? Are we going to go through any more questions, Gosha, or is that us?
I believe that's us. I think you've also addressed a lot of questions as you went along. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we'll wrap up. Well done, everyone. 8:30, and we're still here. Thank you very much for coming.
We're
Thank
motivated
you so much,
learners.
Dave. Yeah, we are extremely motivated.
You're
and
doing
it's
your
almost the weekend.
self-study.